Forget what you think you know about the war in Ukraine. The true battleground might be shifting to an entirely new dimension. We're uncovering how underground tunnels could be the next strategic frontier, giving Ukraine an unparalleled advantage and a shocking new way to fight. Let's imagine this. A frozen Ukrainian night so quiet you can almost hear the snow settle. The moonlight spills over shattered rooftops, and the air bites with the sharp chill of war. Somewhere beyond the crumbling houses, drones buzz like mechanical hornets, and cannons wait in eerie silence. But the real action isn't happening above ground. It's happening beneath it. Deep below, Ukrainian soldiers crawl through narrow tunnels carved into the cold earth. Their breath clouds the air as flashlight beams dance across dirt walls. A whispered command. A nod. A quiet shuffle forward. Then, like ghosts, they surface. Not where the enemy expects, but right behind Russian lines. Within moments, explosions rip through the silence. Confusion reigns, and before anyone can react, the soldiers vanish again, swallowed by the same tunnels that brought them there. It sounds like something straight out of a spy thriller, doesn't it? But this isn't fiction. It's the kind of ingenuity that's defining Ukraine's fight for survival. As the war stretches into yet another grueling year, Ukraine's strategy has become less about brute force and more about brainpower. The country knows it can't always match Russia's sheer numbers or firepower. So it's learned to adapt, turning creativity and courage into its most powerful weapons. Drones, precision strikes, and small, agile combat teams have already rewritten how modern war looks. Now, another ancient idea is resurfacing, fighting underground. The concept isn't new. In fact, tunneling has been part of warfare for as long as humans have built walls to defend themselves. Ancient armies dug beneath fortresses to make them crumble. During World War I, specialized sapper teams tunneled under enemy trenches, planting explosives that could level entire lines in seconds. In later conflicts, tunnels became symbols of resistance. The Viet Cong turned the jungles of Vietnam into a hidden maze, and militants from ISIS and Hamas built sprawling underground networks to move unseen and strike without warning. Again and again, tunnels gave smaller forces a way to outsmart bigger ones. Ukraine, it turns out, sits on ground perfectly suited for this kind of warfare. The country's east and south are riddled with old Soviet coal and salt mines, forgotten industrial tunnels, and relics of Cold War bunkers. Many of these passages run for miles, some wide enough to drive through. In places like Soledar and Bakhmut, these underground worlds have already shaped fierce battles, offering both refuge and surprise. For Ukrainian engineers and commanders, that's a tactical goldmine. In a war where satellites and drones watch nearly every move, the Earth itself has become one of Ukraine's few remaining secrets, a place to hide, to plan, and to strike when no one's looking. Close your eyes for a second and picture the sky above a battlefield, crowded with humming machines, drones like insects, big missiles that roar, and satellites that seem to watch everything. Now imagine slipping away from all that noise into a place the cameras can't touch. That's the simple, powerful idea. Go underground and let the ground do the protecting. Inside the dirt, shells lose their bite and radars lose their eyes. Soldiers can walk quietly, pass food and ammo without anyone seeing, and pop up where the enemy never expects them. It's not flashy, it doesn't cost billions, but it can change a fight. Think back to Mariupol and the steelworks that turned into a fortress. The plant's insides were a maze, hidden rooms, service corridors, and reinforced spaces where fighters kept holding on while the city above was being smashed. Even when the surface was a ruin, the people below kept moving, hiding, and fighting. That kind of stubborn survival showed something important. If you can make a place the enemy can't reach easily, you buy time, you confuse them, and you wear them down. There's more than survival in that story. It's also about fear. Fighting someone you can't see messes with your head. If every patch of ground might hide a tunnel, soldiers start to second-guess every move. That slow, grinding worry can sap energy and courage. For troops who have already seen too much, that kind of uncertainty is heavy. It makes commanders nervous and foot soldiers tired. And in a war where morale is as important as muscle, creating doubt is a big advantage. Ukraine has more than just empty hopes when it comes to going underground. Cities here already hide long, useful paths below their streets. Metro lines double as shelters. Sewers and drainage tunnels snake under neighborhoods. Some places have catacombs or old service passages that run for miles. These aren't sci-fi inventions. They're real, ready-made spaces that can be shored up, linked, and used for moving people and gear out of sight. People on the ground are already doing the work. Teams of engineers and local residents quietly reinforce basements, shore up old tunnels, and build new safe routes. They stitch together hiding spots and supply lines so fighters and civilians can slip from point to point without being tracked. It's a low-key effort. No headlines, no big parades, just steady, practical work that can save lives and keep resistance going. For commanders, tunnels are a different kind of toolkit. Instead of relying only on tanks or planes, they can plan small, clever strikes, pop up behind an enemy checkpoint, cut a supply convoy, or pull back before a counterattack starts. These actions don't need huge weapons. They need surprise, timing, and quiet coordination, things the underground helps make possible. At the same time, the presence of tunnels forces the other side to change how it fights. If you can't see the enemy, you can't just call in a strike and be sure you hit them. That means more scouts, more patrols, and a lot more caution, which slows operations and eats up attention and resources. The cost isn't only metal and fuel, it's time and confidence, and those things matter a lot in long wars. For Ukraine, these tunnels are more than hiding places. They're a dual weapon. On defense, they're safe zones, strongholds buried deep enough to outlast airstrikes and shelling. Soldiers can take cover during bombardments, move food, medicine, and ammo without being seen, and plan their next counterattack in safety. On offense, those same tunnels become silent doors to the enemy's backyard. Small, agile teams can sneak through, cut supply lines, destroy equipment, or create chaos, all before vanishing again into the darkness. It's the kind of warfare that flips the script, turning dirt and rock into tools of survival and surprise. That's why Ukraine has begun forming specialized teams, part engineers, part fighters, trained to live and work in the underground. These sapper units dig, fortify, and map tunnels with precision. Some use sensors and robotic scouts to detect gas leaks or booby traps. Others install ventilation systems or reinforce weak walls with concrete and steel. It's not glamorous work, but it's critical. These are the soldiers who turn mud into strategy, who make the impossible possible. Meanwhile, Russia finds itself in unfamiliar territory, quite literally. Its war machine is built for dominance from above. Airstrikes, long-range artillery, overwhelming force. But underground, all that power fades. Missiles can't reach through meters of solid rock. Radar loses sight. The only way to fight back is to go down there, to send men into cramped, pitch-black tunnels where the advantage belongs to whoever knows the ground better. That's a nightmare for an army trained to fight in open fields, not suffocating corridors. And even when Russia tries to fight back, it's expensive and inefficient. Detecting tunnels isn't easy. It takes ground-penetrating radar, seismic sensors, and highly trained crews. Scanning miles of front line like that costs time and money, both of which Russia can't easily spare. And if a tunnel is found, clearing it is slow, terrifying work. Every step could trigger a mine. Every bend could hide an ambush. For every bomb dropped above ground, Ukraine can quietly rebuild below, a game of hide-and-seek where the stakes are deadly high. That's the beauty and brutality of this new tactic. It's asymmetric warfare in its purest form. Cleverness against muscle, precision against mass. A Ukrainian soldier summed it up perfectly. You can hit a bridge or shoot down a drone, but you can't strike what you can't see. Those words capture an uncomfortable truth for Russia. That sheer power isn't enough when your enemy disappears into the earth. But what's happening beneath Ukraine isn't just changing one battlefield. It's changing how the world thinks about war. Military planners are paying attention. Nations are already testing new sensors, robotic tunnel scouts, and AI-driven systems to detect underground movement. Urban warfare experts are rethinking city defense, imagining a future where battles aren't just fought in streets and skies, but in sewers, basements, and hidden passageways below.
If you've made it this far into the video, it means you're enjoying what we do here at Euro Bulletin. Take a second to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more updates and insights from Europe and its partners. Let's dive in more into the subject.
Underground combat isn't new. It's as old as war itself. But in Ukraine, it's being reborn, reshaped by technology and desperation. It's a fight that blends ancient instincts with modern innovation, a reminder that when pushed to the edge, creativity becomes a weapon of its own. And now, somewhere deep under that frozen soil, beneath cities shattered by war, lamps flicker over maps and tools. In those dim corridors, soldiers whisper and plan. They are unseen, unheard, but not unready. The next move in this silent chess game is forming in the dark, and when it comes, it might rise from the earth itself. Let's take a step inside those tunnels. Not the ones on the maps, but the ones alive with people. Imagine being one of those soldiers crouched in the dim glow of a headlamp. The air feels heavy, smelling of damp soil and metal. Every sound, a drip of water, the shuffle of boots, echoes like thunder. You can't tell if it's day or night anymore. Time loses its shape down here. Yet for these soldiers, this underground world has become home, shelter, and sometimes the only reason they're still alive. Life beneath the surface isn't easy. The air gets thin and cold, and the walls sweat with moisture. Electricity is a luxury. Silence is survival. There's no roaring fire or soft bed, just ration packs, dim lights, and the endless hum of generators. But despite it all, there's something fierce about these men and women. They laugh quietly over shared meals, carve marks into the walls to count the days, and check their radios for news from above. In these tunnels, courage isn't about charging into battle. It's about enduring the stillness, the waiting, the claustrophobic dark. Outside experts have started paying close attention to this kind of endurance. Military analysts in the US, Europe, and Asia are studying Ukraine's methods, realizing how future wars might look more like a three-dimensional puzzle, where battles unfold not just across land and air, but underfoot. Countries like Israel, which has long dealt with tunnel warfare in Gaza, have begun sharing detection techniques and sensor technology. The Pentagon has quietly restarted its own research programs into subterranean combat, testing robots, drones, and mapping software that can see where human eyes can't, but technology can only do so much. What Ukraine is proving is that the true strength of underground warfare isn't just in the engineering, it's in the mindset. You need patience, calm under pressure, and the ability to move and fight in silence. That's not something a machine can teach. Ukrainian sappers train for weeks just to get comfortable being underground for hours, learning how to navigate without GPS, how to breathe through fear, and how to fight when you can't see more than an arm's length ahead. Meanwhile, as Ukraine digs deeper, both literally and strategically, Russia scrambles to adapt. Reports from the front suggest Russian units have begun sealing off suspected tunnel entrances or flooding underground passages to stop infiltration. But every move above ground creates new openings below. Ukrainian units respond by digging alternate exits or setting traps that lure Russian troops into dead ends. It's a deadly dance. One side relying on weight and firepower, the other on agility and wit. Yet even as this hidden war evolves, something bigger is happening. The idea of the battlefield itself is changing. Wars used to be about territory, who controlled the land, the roads, the cities. Now, control extends vertically, from the skies filled with drones to the ground beneath, riddled with tunnels. It's no longer just about where you fight, but how you think about space itself. And in that sense, Ukraine is teaching the world a lesson. You don't need the biggest army or the most expensive weapons to shift the balance. You need imagination, the kind that turns limitations into advantages, and fear into focus. Because somewhere down in those tunnels, in the dark where radios crackle and dirt falls from the ceiling, a new kind of soldier is being forged. One who fights not for glory or headlines, but for the right to keep going when the world above feels lost. When the war finally ends, whenever that day comes, those tunnels won't just be scars left behind. They'll be part of Ukraine's story of survival. The same underground routes that once carried soldiers and supplies might one day protect civilians, power cities, or even become living museums of resilience. Engineers and urban planners are already thinking ahead, sketching ways these wartime passages could evolve into something more. Storm shelters, secure transport lines, even emergency hospitals buried deep enough to stand against future attacks. It's strange to imagine, but the seeds of Ukraine's future might be buried in the same soil that sheltered it during war. Every brick reinforced, every tunnel mapped, and every underground base built now adds to a hidden foundation, not just for defense, but for rebuilding. Some experts say this experience could push Ukraine to pioneer new kinds of civil engineering, blending military-grade safety with modern design. Imagine cities where power grids, communication lines, and transport all run through fortified tunnels. Invisible, protected, and ready for any crisis. That's not science fiction. It's a vision born from necessity. For the soldiers who've spent months beneath the earth, though, rebuilding will mean more than concrete and cables. It'll mean adjusting to open skies again, to the noise, the light, the sudden emptiness after so much confinement. Psychologists say long-term tunnel fighters often face sensory shock when they return above ground. The brightness feels blinding, the space too big, the sounds overwhelming. But many of them speak about something deeper too. A strange connection to the ground itself. They've fought in it, lived with it, trusted it. In their words, the earth became our armor. That connection could shape Ukraine's defense strategy for decades to come. Future bases may be designed with built-in underground networks, ready to store supplies and protect troops. Civil defense drills could include tunnel evacuation routes, and major cities might use subterranean systems as part of their security infrastructure. In a country that's been tested so brutally, every lesson is precious, and Ukraine is learning how to turn hardship into a kind of foresight. Internationally, allies are watching closely. NATO analysts see in Ukraine's tactics a possible blueprint for small nations facing larger threats. A reminder that innovation doesn't always mean new gadgets, but new ways of thinking. Some military schools have even begun adding subterranean operations to their training programs, studying Ukraine's approach as a modern case study in adaptive warfare. It's changing how future generals and engineers think about conflict, not as a contest of who has the most weapons, but who uses space, timing, and creativity best. And through it all, Ukraine's quiet ingenuity stands out. The same spirit that turned ordinary drones into precision weapons, or Molotov cocktails into defenses against tanks, is now shaping the future of how wars, and perhaps peace, will be built. Because what began as a desperate measure to survive may end up redefining how nations protect themselves in the 21st century.